We begin with breaking news. The city of Atlanta now is under cyber attack. They're trying to figure out if they should pay ransom. The city's computers, and that means that the court systems, payroll, police records, they were all locked down, and cyber criminals right now, they have the cyber key.
It is called ransomware. Caitlin Ross and the 11Alive team broke this story first on the 11Alive app this morning, and for 6 hours, that team has been working to get answers from the city of Atlanta. Just minutes ago, that happened. There was a live press conference, and immediately the city of Atlanta was trending on Twitter. Ryan Kruger was there, and Ryan, with all those key departments really paralyzed because of no access to computers, I guess the question is, will the city shut down tomorrow?
Yeah, that is not the plan at this point in time. They do still plan to have City Hall open, all the court systems open, but they do admit there are probably going to still be some issues tomorrow. Here's the problem. No one is sure how far widespread this ransomware attack was. Not really clear all the departments that were impacted. We also don't know if personal information was stolen, whether that be from City of Atlanta employees or people like you and I who have done business with the city of Atlanta. It's not clear if any information was taken. I'll get to that in a little bit. Now, another thing that we can talk about, the city is telling us the airport, their public safety department, their water department were not impacted by these ransomware attacks. They are on a different system, but they did say the police department basically went back 20 years. They're doing all their reports right now by hand with pen and paper as opposed to on computers, which is what they've done for years. So they were impacted in that regard, but 911, emergency services, all of those are still operating. The FBI has been called in to help investigate the attack, and the city is telling us they're working with two outside companies, Microsoft and Cisco, to help solve this problem.
We were advised that there are several agencies, even here in Georgia, that have been impacted. So to the extent that we are really in front of this thing, they're really bad people that are moving pretty quickly to have these types of attacks.
Now, city officials are saying they don't think any personal information was stolen, but they're also admitting they really don't know if that's the case. So really the best bet, if you're a City of Atlanta employee or you've done business with the city before, maybe paid a parking ticket, paid bills online, keep an eye on your accounts, keep an eye on your credit reports just to make sure you weren't impacted by this, because a lot of people could certainly be affected. Also, that $51,000 ransom, I asked the mayor, is the city going to pay it? Right now, they don't know.
Ryan Kruger, downtown Atlanta, outside City Hall. Ryan, thanks. We now go live to the bridge where our team of journalists has been digging deep on this story all day, led by Caitlin Ross. Caitlin, security experts now were raising the alarm about how serious this was as soon as it happened, hours before the city went public on it.
This started very early in the morning. The security expert I talked to says as soon as that ransomware demand came online, they should have known just how serious it was. And it does look like they raised the alarm to employees. We got this email from a City of Atlanta worker instructing them to power down their computers and unplug from the wall if they saw anything suspicious. He says this message should have been a red flag to move now. It's the demand from the hackers that popped up on some City of Atlanta computers demanding 6 Bitcoin, which roughly translates to $51,000. The mayor says she's waiting on guidance from the FBI and Homeland Security on whether or not to pay. But the tech expert I talked to said, don't do it. Criminals will often give the wrong encryption code and the victims never get their data back.
They're not even going to give you the key. It's just it's a cash grab and, oh yeah, we'll give you a key, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and you never get anything and you're still encrypted and you're out the money.
As for who did it, he says that's an even harder question to answer. Well, it certainly will be investigated. He says it's near impossible to pin down a specific place where that attack came from.
It is really stunning development. Thank you for your investigation today. Ransomware is exactly what it sounds like. Hackers hold your computer or an entire system of computers hostage until you pay what they're demanding. And here's how it typically works. A virus infects an individual computer. That users access an internal network and it quickly spreads, looking for vulnerable locations like where updated software patches have not yet been installed. All of your data is encrypted, so you cannot access it anymore. The hacker sends a notice demanding payment and promising a cryptology key to unlock the system. The payment is demanded in Bitcoin, an untraceable currency. The Department of Justice warns that even if you pay the ransom, it often does not work. Sometimes the only way to regain control is to completely rebuild the computer system. We still have a lot of unanswered questions tonight, and our team is still working. You can count on our newsroom to continue to push city leaders for answers and transparency, and we'll update the story on 11alive.com.
And we continue to follow some really sad breaking news in Douglas County, where a child was killed in a house fire in Lithia Springs. Several members of the family now have been taken to the hospital. We do not know their condition right now. 11 Alive's Natisha Lance has just talked to rescuers. Natisha?
Jeff, this is such a devastating scene here. When you take a look at this house, it is completely scorched, not much left behind here, down to the studs, and you can still see some smoke still coming off of that house, and even a trampoline in the front of the house just completely melted away. What investigators have told us here is that they arrived on the scene at about 1:30, encountering heavy fire, heavy smoke. None of those firefighters who went in to try to fight this fire were harmed, but there were 4 people who were inside that house, 2 adults and 2 children, who were taken to a hospital. And as you mentioned, there was a 7-year-old who died. The coroner is still on scene here. There is also a crime investigation unit that is on scene here as well. Now, what investigators are telling us, despite that crime investigation unit on the scene here, it doesn't mean that they are investigating this as a crime, but this is still an active investigation. Take a listen to what officials told us earlier.
Douglas County firefighters, as well as Douglas County Sheriff's Office, along with the State Fire Marshal's Office, are all here on the scene investigating. We're really thorough at what we do. There's no timetable.
Now, investigators also telling us that this was such a difficult scene. Family members who were on the scene when they first arrived here, they said it was extremely emotional, and we will continue to stay on the scene here until we try to figure out exactly what's happening as investigators still try to piece together how this happened. Jeff.
All right.
Natisha, thank you.
New at 6, she's accused of running an unlicensed personal care home for disabled women. Now this Rockdale County business owner is in jail, but deputies are still searching for a worker accused of using a device to shock one of the women. Joe Hankey is on this story tonight. Joe, it sounds like the worker may have tried to leave the state.
Well, Cheryl, they think he might be in the Michigan area. The Rockdale County Sheriff's Office arrested the owner of the business this afternoon. 45-year-old Tamika Williams is charged with running an illegal care facility in the Conyers area. The Sheriff's Office opened an investigation into the facility in February and then recently took out arrest warrants for the owner and her employee. Now, 11 Alive was the only news station there as Williams was walked into the Rockdale County Jail this afternoon. She remained silent, ignored our questions as she cried, and at times lowered her head. Williams is charged with running an unlicensed personal care facility in a home and exploiting 8 disabled adult women. The women ranged in age from 24 to 80, but tonight are all safe.
Georgia Adult Protective Services assisted us with relocating the majority of them. 1 or 2 have been placed with family members, but we have been able to find licensed facilities that can take them on an emergency basis, and they are all safe and sound right now.
The Sheriff's Office says Williams was running the business out of a home on Rogers Court in Conyers. Still on the run tonight is Tony Powell, Williams' employee who lived in the home and was supposed to take care of the women day to day. He is wanted for assault, battery, as well as exploiting and intimidating a disabled woman. Investigators tell me in at least one situation, Williams used a zap cane to shock one of the women. That's the cane you were just seeing on the camera there or on the TV. A zap cane is a cane like the one pictured there with a stun gun-like feature in it. They're intended to be used by handicapped people for self-defense. Investigators also told me Powell has strong ties to the Detroit, Michigan area. They believe he's no longer in Rockdale County and might be headed that way. Anyone with information on his whereabouts is asked to call the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office. Jeff.
Wow, zap cane. I've never heard that term before.
It's just inhumane. You just shake your head.
Terrible story. Joe, thanks. Police say that illegal tire dumping has become a big problem in Union City. We spotted thousands of tires strewn about this undeveloped part of the Southwind subdivision when Skytracker flew over the area earlier today. We've seen similar situations across metro Atlanta over the years. Many people have. But what's really different about this case is police have now actually identified a suspect. And tonight there are warrants out for this person, Donald Leverette's arrest. If you know Donald Leverette and where he is tonight, you are asked to call police immediately.
In the last hour, the jury in the Tex MacGyver murder trial has been watching and analyzing the police interview of the defendant. The police investigation is taking center stage today in the trial. Tex MacGyver accused of intentionally shooting his wife, Diane, as they drove through Atlanta in 2016. He has maintained it was an accident. When police interviewed him, they asked why he felt it was necessary to pull out his gun while driving through the city.
Mr. MacGyver stated that every turn that they took, it appeared that the streets were getting darker and there were more people.
Okay. And did he tell you how that made him feel?
He said it made the hair on the back of his neck rise.
Earlier today, an Emory police officer testified he heard Tex MacGyver asking a friend in the hospital, quote, "What do I say? What's the plan?" End quote. Coming up at 7:30, late feed anchor Billy Politan and his legal dream team will be doing a Facebook Live on the 11Alive page. They'll be analyzing the key points from today's trial.
A dispute in the state legislature may go into the session's final days over the reach of college campus police. With no debate, lawmakers wrote a possible change into the state law that would decrease the jurisdiction of campus police, and it has drawn protest from neighborhoods all around Georgia Tech. 11Alive's Doug Richards explains for us tonight.
The winter was a bit rough in some of the neighborhoods just outside Georgia Tech's downtown campus. A spate of robberies shook residents and challenged police. Yet last winter, the state Senate approved a bill that would narrow the reach of college campus police. Current law gives police jurisdiction 1,500 feet beyond campus boundaries, more than a quarter mile. The proposed law would narrow it from 1,500 to 500 feet, less than a tenth of a mile.
So I felt that keeping that buffer zone at 1,500 feet was appropriate because the campus police are really dialed in on what's going on the campus, and to me, they're best situated to be able to respond quickly.
Bert Reeves wrote an amendment changing it back to 1,500 feet at technical schools. He's among the lawmakers who expected an outcry to reverse the measure written last month by Senator Bill Cowsert.
The focus of campus police is to protect students on campus.
Now, two different bills have advanced with two different campus jurisdictions, making this an unexpected issue that could tie up lawmakers into the last week of the legislative session. At the Capitol, Doug Richards, 11Alive News.
Well, despite the sunshine today, it was cool and breezy. So when will those temperatures finally get back to normal?